Good afternoon, ladies and gents. Welcome in. Thank you for all your support here with my channel, my podcast, my station, whatever name that can be used in today's society here. For me, just speaking about life, various topics. Again, I know. We'll say it this way. I know a little bit. I know a little bit. I'm not saying that I don't know, and that's why I said early in the outset of me making this podcast, will I bring on different people, give different views? Because again, that's the name of this thing. So again, welcome in to another episode of A Different View. We'll probably title this one Some Different Thoughts. I know I have that little running side deal here where I don't do specific podcasts, and this is not going to specific episodes, I should say. This isn't going to go too long. I'm not we're all out and about here, but this is just some thoughts, specifically on the war in the Middle East. We keep going around this circle, and because we're talking the Middle East, folks, this is going to get a little Bible-y. I will say that for those who don't necessarily, they're not Christian, or they're not Jewish, they're not Semite, which is why, and I say that on purpose, because what I am going to say today, folks, people are going to automatically see again, we talked about the idea of defenses. People have certain defenses that are already built in whenever certain thoughts come out to light, certain truths come out to light. Again, the Bible talks about the truth being a stumbling block and an offense. That has nothing to do. It also tells you that the truth will also set you free. It also tells you that the truth is spoken in love, or should be spoken in love. Okay, so I think a lot of this that comes down to this, you have to go back into a lot of biblical and anthropological study, because I've had a lot of we've had, there's a lot of surrounding talk. I've heard a lot of stuff about it, and again, realize, folks, and I keep saying this, and I'm going to keep saying it because repetition is necessary for learning. Anyone under the sound of my voice, including myself. Now, I've gotten away from a lot of it on my own because I realize how much garbage, another way of saying it, certain way without the colorful language, is mess. How much mess people are believing in today. Because they don't study, because they do the 30-second microwave study and think they know things, and they don't. You have to be humble enough to, one, say you don't know, which is again why I say that's why I started off there by saying I don't know everything. Learning, always being able to continue to keep learning because you don't know. None of us know. Again, I said it's going to get a little Bible-y, so here we go. Another one of these verses talks about how at the end of it all, at the end of your life, you will come to a point where you know as you are known. Now, I'm paraphrasing. Look up the phrase, you can Google in your phone something that says something to the effect of Bible verse that says to be known as you are known. It will take you right to it, okay? The truth of this is, guys, we see another verse in the Bible talks about how we see in part, okay? We're looking at an imperfect world here. Much of it not because of God, because again, see, another one of these defenses people do is you got to blame something bigger than you to take it off of you. People do it with this whole thing with racism. They do it with sexism. You'll see men blame women. You'll see women blame men. At the end of the day, there was something that went wrong seriously, and it affects people's relationships. I will be bold now. Again, I'm saving certain things here for the Valentine's Day episode, but I'll be bold enough to say that racism affects much of, and I know I'm probably going to get a little bit of feedback here, and I'm saying it anyway, but we're just going to put it out there just for it to mull over in people's minds. Racism affects most of the relationships in this planet today. Now, I said part of that I was going to say for Valentine's Day. So I'm going to let y'all mull over which relationships could racism possibly affect from the standpoint of Valentine's Day. But we will get into that on the back end. Much of the stuff people say about, again, what I have called, and this is again just from research, from seeing the truth of this, the three holy holidays here in the fall, which are Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. Not the Thanksgiving they gave us, and not the Christmas they gave us, and not the commercialized Halloween that they give us. We're talking about the holiday as it was done in various cultures of the world as a sign of holiness, worship, and thanksgiving for bringing in harvest in very harsh conditions, just like we have today. The climate, I understand people have an issue with climate change. Again, all you have to do is a study of how climate was now as compared to what climate or is now as compared to what climate was then, and you're going to see where people really had to struggle for their stuff. Now, the brain is more enlightened. I understand people do not believe in the idea that humans could live to 900 years. Much like people don't believe that the planet could exist for millions of years. Again, I think folks are selling their creator a little short here. If God is everlasting and we are made in the image of God, then why couldn't, we're made in the likeness of, then if God is everlasting to everlasting, then why wouldn't humans live long? Just no one putting, but see, a lot of this happens because people, y'all heard me say it on another episode, people damage the imagination part of them. This is not the thing people say where you're just, and again, they use the word improperly. They use the phrase improperly, but daydreaming, tube dreaming, even, of course, even in the streets, we say tripping. Okay, we use tripping for a lot of different ways. Missteps occur, like when you, like as the word trip. Okay, they misinterpret that for actual things that go on in life. Okay, so the idea that humans could live a long time is very real. If humans were living a long time, then the part where they were living had to have been a long time. Like they were living in the place while they were living a long time. That same place was there with them that long. Again, you don't get all the stuff you get here, guys. We're almost acting as if everything just popped up. All here you go, bloop. Trees, bushes, everything just whoop. Just because you read it in Genesis, and this is why I said this about the creation story. Why we have to be careful discrediting evolution. You want to tell me that certain parts of what people believe in evolution could be different to what those believe in the Christian story. At the same time, you got to pump the brakes on getting too judgment. So we've already talked about this, right? Do not think more highly of yourself than you ought to think, because every person has been given a measure of belief, right? And this isn't an attack. See, a lot of times when this stuff comes out, like when you're with your personal trainer, right? When you with your trainer, like even if you hurt yourself, you're trying to rehab or you're working out and stuff like that, the idea to get stronger is to be pushed past the limit you were already at. And you can't do that being, and this is not against a nurturing thing here. And I think a lot of the world needs a lot more nurture. Unfortunately, you got a lot of super macho people out there, both male and female, because they missed that part of it. Got nothing to do with masculine or feminine. That's like we just said, sexism's another one of these things where people go sideways, assuming that a male is supposed to act a certain way and that a female is supposed to act a certain way. And because of those predisposed things, got nothing to do. And I understand about that whole effeminate verse in the Bible. Again, people take things out of context. Because male or female shows a softer side here does not make them less than. Okay? When we start doing that, that's where we open the door for our own issues here. And that's and hence into this war in the Middle East. I highly encourage folks, before you make the decision that you're making, to just write off people. Because again, if we're going to write off Palestine for attacking and all of this stuff, right? This even goes back to, and I'm from New York. Okay? I was there September 11, 2001. I wasn't in New York City. I was living on Long Island at the time, but I saw the damage, the violence. Again, guys, when greed is at play, you open up the door for all of this garbage. All of this garbage. There is needless death on all sides. No one wins. There is no wrong or right. Which is why we've got to talk more about sharing. That's why you guys hear me talk so much about it. Because that's the element missing. Why do you have issues in the economy all over the planet? Not just in the United States, all over the planet, because people refuse to share. Bosses don't want to give workers their fair due. And as a result, that's why you're starting to see more robotic, I'm using the word robotic, automated, whatever, however you want to use. And this is not to feed into this whole AI thing that everybody's got going on, because I honestly don't believe that's the way it's going to go. All you're going to see is just a lot of humans picking to choose automated things over people. And people never ever taking the time, as in like right now, to formulate serious legal and financial backings to protect themselves. It has been the problem in history. Again, y'all hear me reference Labor Day. That's why I did that episode, just to get it out there in people's minds. Folks do not understand the damage they do by following after greed, and it is the same greed that corrupted Israel, which is why they were captured way back when. I am not talking about the Exodus slavery. I'm talking about during the time of the minor and major prophets, leading up to the end of the Old Testament into the New Testament. Where you get, and this one, y'all, for y'all who have this maybe similar ideas as I do, all that kind of thing, think on this. Now, in the Star Wars movie, they say it a different way, but I'm going to say it this way. The Return of the Jedi. In the Bible, it is called the repairers of the breach. People who have been part of a thing, dispelled from the thing because of corruption and succumbing to it. And they start to see where the wrong was. They start to see what was already should have been to begin with. And then you come back together as a group. It's not the whole group. It's a certain group of people that everybody bonds around. Again, we saw a little bit of that in 2020 when George Floyd died. You've seen it in history whenever you watch any type of revolution, whether peaceful or violent. And again, if you don't believe me, go look up various revolutions in history. Again, we got to get out of this worldview. Go back into the beginning of all this. You will find that Noah, so this idea that Israel's supposed to be killing these people because they are wicked. They're the descendants of one of Ham's sons that either abused or looked at their father, their dad, while he was naked after a night being drunk, after the flood. Now again, we're talking about what do you believe here, okay? At that point, I believe it's Genesis 9. At that point, Noah wakes up, realizes something happened to him. Okay. Now, you talk to any woman who's been raped, and again, there's also men involved, but clearly we know, and it's not to say that the number is not maybe closer for the male side of this, but we understand what goes on with females. This is another one of these things that is malaligned here, because especially when you're dealing with rape, men start talking. Now, I'm not saying that things aren't taken out of context, and I'm also not making a case for why rape should be, okay? See, again, we're talking about the defenses that are in people's heads here. And I'm addressing them on purpose because I'm good. See, we've seen all this, and we keep doing this dance, messing around with the side issues instead of attacking the main one, which is the byproducts of greed here. And how innocent lives are lost as a result. See, the truth is, nobody should be dying in these wars. The truth is, the great Creator has given us more than enough land to live down here in peace. The truth is, the Creator has given us peace. It's another one of many entities that are given. Love is another one. Peace is one. Now, obtaining knowledge and wisdom, that ability to do that, to learn like that, it's all part of that measure of belief. The gifts given to people. We got to understand what is at stake here, folks. It is our survival. And that's not to disparage nobody who could care less for someone's survival. We're talking about doing things in your own best interest. This is why in the last couple episodes when I talked about being selfish with a purpose. You get for you so that then you can help someone else get for them so that they can re-profit you in return. That's why the Bible talks about given it shall be given unto you. Anybody who's selfish automatically should buy into that. You automatically should buy into that. Wait, I'm going to get more? Oh, hey, let me start the giving. Who can I find? You would be like, since we're coming up on Christmas here, you would be like Scrooge at the end of the Christmas story, where you're just giving to everybody because you have seen behind the curtain as to how damaging greed and selfishness is. Nothing wrong with wanting for you. Nothing wrong with wanting a good-looking woman. Or good-looking man. Nothing wrong with wanting a nice house. Nothing wrong with wanting a nice car. Nothing wrong with having a nice job, with having good friends. When you get to the point where you got to kill somebody else, take the story of David in the Bible, who wanted a woman so bad that he killed his closest skilled military advisor. Regardless of what you think about David and all that kind of stuff, who would do something like that? The only thing that drives people to do wild stuff like that is greed. You would take another man's wife, sleep behind someone's back. See, there's a difference between adultery and an open relationship. I will get into that. I'm just dropping that now for y'all to mull on it. I understand everybody's not okay with it, and that's fine. I understand people will say whether it's immoral or not. That's fine. Again, everybody, consider this. Consider this. Paul clearly tells people in the Bible that all things are permissible. Everything is not expedient, right? In the New Testament, that's another one of those things that you can Google on your phone. I'm not even saying open the Bible and go looking for it. You can Google it on your phone. It'll actually tell you right where to go. The idea, folks, is the key on the back end. All things are not expedient. The word expedient means good. Basically comes down to what's profitable or good. Everything is not. While you can do everything, everything is not. Like, for instance, everybody can own a gun, but it probably is not a good deal for everybody to shoot everyone. And that's what you got going on today, is the irresponsibility with the ability to own a firearm. And that's the part everybody wants to skate away from. They'll start talking about the Democrat. The Democrat will start talking about the Republican. The Republican or Democrat will start talking about, again, this is why I say this thing is like the ball in a cup with 3 cups at the carnival. You got to pay attention. And there's many smart people out there. It's time to start paying attention to this mess. Because again, they need you to buy into something so they can take from you. And in this case, especially when you're looking at that war in the Middle East, you're talking about innocent lives here. Those people, for the most part, speak the same language. Do a study on Aramaic, I should say. Speaking in Hebrew, speaking in Greek. We already see it in Latin. See, you already heard me talk about that whole idea that Latin's a dead language. Again, there's people stretching the definition. If words are based off of a dead language, how dead could a language actually be? It's not. They got you thinking that way. No, everybody is not going around speaking in Latin per se, but we're all speaking words that are highly based in Latin words. The whole Latin culture, Latinos, Latinas, they're all speaking something, saying words that come from what someone else has said is a dead language. It can't be that dead. So again, people buy into stuff, and you got to be careful as to why you are buying into it. Most times, and this is why I say, for the most part, it's probably more 95, 99% than less than that. But you got to buy into something for folks to take from you. That's normally the reason why. Study the pattern of war, folks. It's when people stopped agreeing. It's when people stopped doing what was possible, if it be at all possible to live in peace with each other. Again, Noah cursed Ham, which is the group of people consider to have been those of African descent. A little bit of that is also in the Middle East, and how those descendants of Ham were going to be servants to the other ones because of what happened. That was Noah, not God. Now, again, people take other biblical texts about God sending Israel to go take in land from folks. This is all after the flood now, as people repopulate. Which, as far as the repopulation part, we'll leave that alone. Again, it's time, folks, we start doing a little bit more study. It's time we start doing a little bit more study. Because again, at the end of the day, our lives, others' lives are at stake. You know, at the end of it all, you know, talking about that being known as you are known, Bible talks about how God will wipe tears from people's eyes when we hit the pearly gates. Me personally, I believe that's everybody. So whether you wind up in hell, heaven, whether you believe in all that, again, that's a whole other subject. But the idea that why would tears be getting wiped from people's eyes? I've come up to, and I've racked my brain with that for a while, and I constantly keep going back and studying. I never stop learning. Again, if I got this gray matter, we gonna use this thing, then I can't use it no more. Okay, and that'd be the only reason. And at the end of the day, actually, in Romans it says that's the reasonable service, offering your body to a holy cause. We're gonna say it that way. Is the reasonable service, and there are many noble holy causes. So if using my mind and constantly learning, whether I'm in my middle 40s, early 20s, or 70, 80 years old, as long as the heart's still ticking and the brain still calculating, we're gonna keep learning. At the end of it all, when you're standing before the great Creator, the architect of this thing, the master of universes, okay? Because again, people just think that, you know, the Milky Way is it. We're talking about all of space and time created. You're talking about the maker of the universe of universes. Again, this is getting. That's why when people talk about, that's why when you're watching Marvel with the multiverse, I don't have a problem, because it's clear as day. Possibilities, folks. Bible talks about in the ages to come. That's not just talking about, you know, like that verse was written then and then ages would be like now. So those are ages in between from that verse to this. No, we're talking about like ages, multiverses. But again, we'll just leave that there. That's a different subject for a different day. People have to realize that if the tears are being wiped, you know something that makes you cry. What do people cry from? Things that make them happy and things that make them sad. I like to time in on the sad part, because the happy one is like, okay, we get it because you're happy. At the end of the day, when it's all said and done, I always say at the end of the day a lot. When it's all said and done, why would you be sad at such a point like that? Like we're saying, we're not even talking about whether or not, okay, hey, you're going to hell now. We're not talking about that. Just, okay, hey, you're there, you made it, we're here. Whew, okay, I got, why would you be? All of the stuff that you missed, all of the stuff that your actions hurt someone else, so on and so forth, will cause you to cry. You see it fully. You're known now. You see it. And God is there to help console you through it. There's a penalty for stuff. Moses smashing those 10 commandments, the penalty for doing that was him missing out on them. Getting mad at other people. See, again, much of the stuff in the Bible is, as much as I talk about, checking the history and looking at geology of a place and all that kind of thing. Look to a lot of what is being said, like the allegorical part of it, like what's the meaning behind the story. Clearly, with you've heard me reference the Good Samaritan a lot, because that's one of the bedrock ones there for me personally. The Good Samaritan, you got to stop in what you're doing to help somebody else. If you don't, it's not, especially as a society, this thing does not work where you're solely focused on yourself. You can't be indifferent. You can't be the people killing somebody innocently, as the raiders were to that actual Samaritan. And I'm not even getting into the part about a person from Samaria. I'm not even touching that part of it, because that's a whole other topic. That holds a lot of meaning to the story as well. Because again, everybody is not going to be like you. This is why I say, especially in using your mind, learn some other languages. Look outside the four coasts of the Americas. There's a whole huge world out here, folks. That's why it's sad how poor and broke that the economic society, I will say it that way, the economic system has people, and it's got its test subjects, like black folks, which again, that word black there, you don't even know. People don't. Columbus showed it in me doing that Columbus episode. Columbus showed it very well. Because you're naming people, and you're in the West Indies thinking you're at America. Naming people stuff, you don't have a clue. And now everybody is Indian. Their names were part of tribes, folks. But already when you're over there and you think they're evil, see, this is the same kind of language here that Israel has toward Palestine. Look throughout the Bible. It deals with when you talk about these people from Canaan. Now again, Canaan, descendants of Ham. They're evil. They're supposed to be serving, right? So now you're just going around. Everybody's always in servitude. Everybody's always killing people. Again, this is stuff you can study, folks. I'm not not shooting off the cuff here. If that's the case, we need to be careful. We need to be careful. Because if the world is made here where everybody's got a shot, guess what? Who are we to say they don't? Who are we to say they don't? You look at the end of the Old Testament into the New Testament. Again, I said I was going to get a little Bible-y here, so here we are. You have a veil being torn down. You have instances in Acts as the church is first starting where you have consistent partiality being consistently confronted with being impartial. Like Peter not having dinner with people that he's supposed to be having dinner with, and Paul calling him out for it. Like Paul going to kill Jews. Now think about this. Think about it from that perspective, right? We're talking about taking the Bible into context when you study it. There's a centralized thing there that people have to pick up on. And I'll get on that a little bit probably in the Easter episode. So we're a few months away. I'm sorry, folks, but again, we take this a little bit at a time here. If God stopped Paul, whose name wasn't Paul then at that point. Funny how you could rename yourself back then. So Abram changed to Abraham. Paul, I think Silas was his first name changed, but people won't ever change their name from certain things. They bug out about that name change thing. They bug out when they get married with the hyphenated thing. You are you, folks. And again, I'm bleeding over into some things here into the Valentine's episode. But you're you. You don't stop being you. Really. You don't really stop being you because you're with someone else. Man, I can't. I'll leave it alone. I gotta leave it alone. I gotta leave it alone, folks. At the end of the day, we'll just let that one mull over into mine there. You do not stop being you because you're with someone else. If God could stop Paul from killing Jews, what do you think, as a Jew, killing other Jews? How much more so do you think that is for other people? You know, the Bible talks about how we're supposed to be careful getting into fights with folks and not dealing with them internally first before you go on the world stage with it. What do you think war is? War is the world stage, folks. It goes to public opinion because now everybody starts that formulating opinion. Oh, well, you know, gosh, Israel and this, that, and the other, and I grew up in church and I learned all this. Oh, well, you know, these Palestinians and the Arabs, all they're good for is blah, 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 blah. You have to be careful where your judgments are going. See, the truth is neither one of them is supposed to be fighting, folks. That's the truth. The truth is a lot of this mess that we see with us today, forget the Middle East. Again, you can take it to the United States and Europe, which is just an extension of Europe. All that mess happens not supposed to be, folks. And there's supposed to be repair that happens as a result of it. I'm sorry. I understand what people are going to say. Okay? We get all the defenses that people are going to say. These things, this is why it says that like that in James. In the book of James. Clearly says it. These things ought not be. These things ought not be. And because of it, this is what you find. This is the damage you see. Oh man, folks, that's what I got for today. That's what I got for today. We're gonna put the pause in it there. Again, it wasn't really to take up a lot of time. Just a little talk. Just a little talky talk. So, I thank y'all for listening. I know some of the stuff is hard to hear. Some of the stuff you may not have heard before from folks. Regardless, it's not the reason why I do it. The reason why I do it, again, like I said, again, repetition is necessary for learning. I'm not doing this to be popular. I'm not doing this as a money grab. Okay? If I make money on the back end of it or whatever, so be it. That's not what I'm doing this for. The idea is to not be popular in speech. The idea is to be effective. And sometimes when you're effective in your speech, it is not always popular. I grasped that concept a long time ago. So, thank y'all for tuning in. And as always, look to find the beauty in a different view.